Florida State's Gus Malzahn will retire. Tim Harris Jr. will take over. I'm going to give you the background on why this is going to help the Florida State Seminoles.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the...
All right, folks, let's talk about Florida State and everything that's going on with Tim Harris and Gus Malzahn and everything else. Got this news a little over an hour ago, and everything is just absolutely going crazy in terms of all the news with Florida State. So I want to break this down into two sections, and I'm going to jump into the chat afterwards. Number one, this is a little surprising, but not totally. There were rumors that Gus was close to retiring anyway, so I figured 2 years would be max for him, and I'd heard rumblings a month ago that there was a chance that he would step away. So this isn't shocking. The bigger surprise to me is Tim just automatically getting the spot, but I'm happy that he did. I'll get into that a little later in the show. But at first, I want to give some credit to Malzahn. 35-year coaching career, high school, Arkansas State, Auburn. He's Tulsa. He's been at different places. He's found a way to make it work. Obviously, UCF and Florida State are his last two stops. Great man, great family. Congrats to him on a long career. Good luck to him with all his adventures that he takes with his wife. She's a great gal too. And just everything that happens with Florida State down the road with him, like coming back for games or anything else. That's great. If he goes back to Auburn, UCF, all that, he's somebody that should be welcomed because he's just a good person. To that end, his offense was very unique. So I'm just want to jump right into the forward nature of this. What does this mean for Florida State football in 2026, 27, 28, etc.? It's ironic, and I didn't know last night, for those that are wondering, when I did my show that was for early this morning, I had no idea that Gus was retiring. I don't try to get into the inner workings of Florida State. I try to cover objectively without a ton of like insider or else I would have had this show pre-recorded, and as soon as announced, I would have published it. That's why I'm going live now. Just be truthful. To that end, I think Tim Harris Jr. will be an upgrade for the following reason. I questioned it yesterday, again, just ironic, but Castellanos was banged up very early last year, and we all knew that was a possibility. I said that was my biggest concern with the offense in many different podcasts and in many different posts and many different discussion points on not only my show, but college football has many different podcasts now, and the Locked On Podcast Network has Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On College Football Show. We went on different shows around the network, talked about, let's see if he can stay healthy. And as soon as he got banged up, it went down. I expect, and if you take nothing else from this podcast, take the following. I expect Tim Harris Jr. to still use the quarterback in the manner in which they recruited these guys. It's what he has anyway, but I also expect that he's going to use it a little bit different with the passing game. So let me explain. This will not be short. This is long and thought out, and this will absolutely, unequivocally be something that is discussed ad nauseum between now and spring. This is going to be a recurring thing, but this is my big box answer. I think that they will be a little bit more drop back, a little bit more traditional, a little bit more of an opportunist when it comes to, let's be honest, you're not going to find a better combo out wide than what Florida State has athletically than Mekhi Danzey, who's literally one of planet Earth's fastest human beings. Like, it is timed, it is fact, all that. At one point last year, he had the 9th fastest 400-meter time in the world. That's what I read. Like, I don't care if that's completely, even if you're in the stratosphere of that, we're good. And you can see the way he ran on the field last year. It's self-explanatory. He would beat guys to the edge, even when he didn't have the ankle. He's going to be single covered all the time because on the other side, you have Deuce Robinson. And that was the show that I did this morning, talking about like they're going to have a dynamic offense this next year just because it's second year of Malzahn's offense, all this. There'll be more continuity. Surely the quarterback play will be a little bit better. Again, nothing against Tommy, but he was banged up back half of the season. He just wasn't as accurate. And that's the second point here. Not only do I expect it to be a little bit more traditional of an offense, but I also expect the quarterback to take fewer shots. What do I mean by that? Gus was really creative in the quarterback run game. Maybe the best quarterback run game coach in college football over the last 20 years. Rich Rod, Urban Meyer, Gus Malzahn. Those would be the three off the top of my head that I would use. And there are others. I don't want to discount anyone. Certainly plenty of others. But when you combine deep shots with the quarterback run game and all that, pick whichever one of those three. It's pretty good. Like you look at the yards per completion. Last year, Florida State was over 15. Yards per attempt, Florida State was like number 9, number 11 at 9 per attempt. Like those are elite numbers. But if your quarterback is healthier, it's amazing how much easier it is for there to be accurate passes. So Gus would run counter, draw, power, different things with his running back. And by the way, Tommy Castellanos is built like a running back and was recruited as one. Clemson, Florida State, Georgia, a bunch of these different schools out of high school, may have been FSU. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them is a running back. I can't remember which one, but that's how athletic he is. He's the exception, not the rule. And you still take those shots to the upper body, your sternum, your chest, your shoulders, your neck. It's not going to help you throw the football. It's not. And I'm not going to dive in today. I will soon, very soon, maybe even tomorrow or the next day. I need to go through this a little more now and kind of recalibrate everything. But I have a different perception on how the quarterback battle will go. Because one of the questions I put up on my show this morning that went up at 3 a.m. audio, 5 a.m. for YouTube, are they going to use more than one quarterback because Gus is the OC? He's done that before. There's less of a chance of that, minus one caveat here. Situationally, 2-yard line, if like somebody's just really, really good at running the ball, maybe Wildcat, just about everybody has that package. I don't count that. When I say Gus using more than one quarterback, I'm talking about rotating, maybe even in the same series. Before you reach the red zone, Gus has done everything. He's done everything. What was it? He was at Auburn. There was a game against Clemson, opening game of the year. He played like 5 quarterbacks in the game because he used different players back there, Wildcat, different things. He did anything that he could to make the other team prepare and be a little bit off kilter. Some effectiveness, but I also think that takes away from your own. And there is nothing for any passing attack, high school, college, pro, 7-on-7, I don't care what it is. Reps, reps, reps. Same guy, same play, throwing it to the same group of tight ends, receivers, and running backs. Over and over and over and over and over and over again. You can never have enough. It's infinite. Talk to any NFL quarterback. Go through Joe Montana's film, John Elway. Look through interviews anywhere you want. Reps, reps, reps. Tom Brady, I don't care. Peyton Manning, it's the same thing. This will be very important for Florida State. And I want to get into that here after the break. I want your comments and questions, and I'll jump into the chat when we get back from first break. But now, Florida State's depth chart changes in a multitude of ways. Your pass protection, maybe how you shift right tackle, left tackle, maybe the way you set up your line splits, different things for the pass game could, even if it's just slightly. And I don't, by the way, just going to run it here for a surprise. We're not going to hear Tim Harris Jr. say, yeah, we're going to change the offense a bunch when he goes to the podium, when they have that. That's not going to happen, in my opinion. I hope I'm at least somewhat wrong, but he wants some element of surprise. We're not going to get a ton of information. And why would he give it? Why would you do that? I'm cool with that. I would, matter of fact, I would prefer that he was, shall we say, coy. You've got an advantage, man. Use it. When we come back, we're going to talk about that, though. Does Florida State change the offense enough that it's almost unrecognizable? Let's talk about that next, right here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One last Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the National Football League season officially comes to a close. It's Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest football game of the year. Whether you're backing the Seahawks, who are the favorite, or you're going to ride with the Patriots, the underdog. It's around 4.5 points the last I saw on FanDuel. building that one last same game parlay or anything else you want to do. Maybe you're going to bet on the coin toss. Maybe you're going to bet on the halftime score, touchdowns thrown, the first interception, whatever it is. FanDuel is the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if that $5 bet is a winner. Make it count because the Super Bowl, that's it. The season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sports partner of the Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen. If you want to take your game to the next level, check out the Everydayer Club with the link down below, especially for you audio listeners. This is for you, $5 a month or $50 for the year. It's pretty straightforward. No ads on your audio. Spotify, Apple, Podbean, Amazon Music, any other place you get your pods, no ads. On top of that, there is a Discord explained again down in the link below. Check out the Everydayer Club. Now let's talk about how the offense really changes. And I'll talk about this as I go through the chat. We're going to have some fun. I don't have any length for this. If this is a 2-hour pod, I don't care. If this is a 30-minute pod, I don't care. Bring your comments to the chat. If it's really long, I'll download all of this. You can go back through it later. And probably if it goes more than 45 minutes, I'll break it up into 2 sections for 2 pods. But thank you very much for checking out Locked On Seminoles, no matter how you consume it here today or in the future. All right, let's see what we got here. Sean Wallace, good time for Norvell to review his old Tulsa videos, reinvent himself again. You know, that's an interesting point, actually. I don't know what Norvell's input will be. But seriously, Sean, that's a really good point. Every coach, when they have a coordinator change, especially if their expertise is on that side of the ball, and for those that don't remember, Norvell was a wide receiver when he played, so he's an offensive guy. Maybe it's something he needs to look at. Like, again, how many teams have the raw physical skill just outside? And that doesn't count. I'm telling you, for those that don't know, if Jamin Boggs is healthy this next year, he was banged up all of 2025, that's a slot guy that's going to get single coverage all the time. And he is the all-time leader in Florida high school football in receiving yardage. Like, that is a stat. He's going to make some plays. Landon Thomas, etc. DeCirio Riles, they have guys to catch the football, and they got at least 3 good running backs, plus an incoming freshman that's a good player. Running back room's in a good spot. Are they going to reinvent themselves a little bit here? Maybe, maybe not. But I think it's at least worthwhile to discuss. I don't think it's perfect to say that they're just going to automatically become the 88 49ers. You know, let's not be stupid. But I expect to see, again, a little more drop back, and maybe Norvell, to Sean's point here, is going to be one of those guys that helps magnify what needs to be done in the passing game. Their run game, they can use Norvell's scheme to a certain degree. Maybe it'll get mitigated a little bit because the quarterback run game is really important. And that don't get it twisted. It's very valuable. But at the same time, you give up a few of those 4, 10-yard runs, whatever, 6-yard runs, and you're just accurate again. Reps. There's no reason to think Florida State's passing game couldn't be sharper and more consistent, especially, let me be specific here, middle of the field. It's the area that especially NFL teams avoid like the plague. You know, linebackers at that level, not many linebackers can cover. NFL linebackers, they don't cover, they get gone. They're cut, they're out, they're gone. So they avoid it for the most part. College linebackers, there's very few that can cover. I expect Florida State to use that. And again, Riles, the transfer in from East Carolina, remember that name, good player. And they also have Landon Thomas, another guy that just absolutely unequivocally must stay healthy. Those guys with, again, what Sean's talking about here, good time for Norvell to review his old Tulsa videos, reinvent himself again. That's his comment. Thank you to Sean for that. I think this is a good point about it. They need to find a way to hit that more. Out wide, Deuce and Mackay, those are NFL players. My dead grandmother could call plays for them. May she rest in peace. But for the love of mankind, those are NFL players. If you can control in any way, shape, or form, or increase, if you will, the productivity in the middle of the field, dig routes, shallow crosses, slants, posts, anything with more consistency, and again, I'm literally openly saying this. I'm refusing to go into the quarterback battle because I don't want this to be about the quarterback battle this spring in the fall. I'll get into that later this week. Maybe I'll do a show Thursday night, but let's kind of tentatively plan that. A show Thursday night after we get more intel about the whole process. Let's tentatively plan. If not Thursday, it'll be Wednesday, but one or the other. I believe that we're going to see more passing in the middle of the field, a little bit of a reduction in the run game for the quarterback, which again, regardless of which young man ends up being the starter for the Noles, fewer hits on that shoulder, fewer hits on that neck, fewer concerns about worrying about the run game for himself instead of handing off to a guy like Chroma, Wisner, or Singleton. Those are three guys. They have playmakers at receiver in conjunction with the opportunity to run play action passing. Don't reinvent the wheel here. Your guy, better than the other team's guy, I like it. That's something Bobby Bowden used to talk about all the time. Maybe my favorite line regarding specifically football that Bobby used to say, I always thought, dadgummit, that I thought if I had better players than you, I was probably going to win. Something like that. It was, just imagine Bobby's accent, but he was right. Better players win football games. How many teams have two better receivers than Danzy and Deuce Robinson? Just for starters. How many? It's less than 5. If you want to say Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith on one side, and Brandon Ennis at slot, and whoever they end up playing as the other receiver outside, that's fine. That's fine. Maybe LSU, maybe Notre Dame, maybe USC. There's a few other schools, A&M. There's a few others it could be. Miami's group's going to be good. But I doubt in totality there are 5 that have 2 better receivers than Mekhi Danzy and Deuce Robinson. Let's get it, man. Throw the football. Now, I know many of you are probably saying, well, Brian, what about pass protection? I'm going to come up to that. And it's anybody that says it here in the chat or later on YouTube, by all means. For those that do not know, in full disclosure, Florida State has 5 transfer offensive linemen, and they have a few guys that they've recruited that have a shot. Spring ball is going to be really interesting now, not only because of Tim Harris Jr. taking over, but because that offensive line's got 5 guys. How do they position them? How do they do line splits? All that stuff. That's super complex. I honestly need to have an O-line expert on to talk about some of that after spring ball to kind of look at it and say, okay, this is what they did. We watched the spring game, etc. That's important. But more importantly, and this is a big one, it's still just early February here. It's the 2nd of February as I do this live show. We're only guessing. So I'm not going to dive too much into the O-line. But again, I understand we don't know how pass protection is going to go. I'm just going to assume it's at least slightly above average, kind of like last year, and go from there. That's about all I can say. All right, what else we got here? Sean again. I like it. Maybe not the timing, but I like it. It simplifies who has to gear up for the games. Interesting. William Quinkskills. I would have liked to see more candidates looked at before hiring from within again. Here's the question I have, and William, I don't have any problem with that comment. How do we know how many people they really looked at? Do we know? And part of this is Gus's timing. When did Gus notify Norvell, hey, I'm stepping down? We are to the end of the coaching carousel on the college side for the most part, except for sporadic, unfortunate circumstances, which there'll be some idiot will get in trouble. A head coach will get fired this offseason or something, and that's always a calamity. This could have been a calamity for Florida State too, because the teams that are hiring right now are ones that are really desire job. You know what they are? They're called National Football League teams. That might have been one of the reasons they did this. Most of the coaches are already secured. They're in contracts. It's a pain in the butt. Guys have already moved. They're not going to move a second time that are thinking about moving. So it's not the easiest circumstance. G2480, good riddance. Mike needs to step up to the plate now. They got to fix the offense in some ways. It was productive in a lot of ways too, though. We'll see. I'll talk about Tim overall here in just a minute as a person because he's somebody I admire. He's a really good guy. Kendo9416, what changes do you see Tim Harris Jr. making to this offense? It's a fair question. I talked about it in general. The first thing, I think there'll be a little bit more drop back, not like significantly. Again, this isn't going to be 1995 NFL or 95 even Noles, but they'll drop back a little more. That's my interpretation. He's been a running back coach and receivers coach. He knows the combination well. His dad, for those who don't know, I'll just say this now before the break. This will be my only other break here in just a second. His dad, we call him Ice Harris, Booker T. Washington coach in Miami, pass game, run game, everything. He's one of the most famous coaches in the state of Florida history. He came up under him. He understands that you adapt to the talent you have to win. His dad won multiple state titles, and Tim took over. I believe he won one in 2014 before he went into the college ranks. He will adjust. 2026, you got Deuce. You won't have him in the year after. You'll probably adjust. Maybe you'll run the ball more in 27. Like there's certain things. That'll be Croman's third year. You think Croman's going to have a big year? 2027? Heck yeah, he is. You'll adjust. But to that end, that's a great question. I'll come back to the chat here in a minute. And when we come back, I'm going to give my thoughts on Harris as play caller, what I expect as a person, as a recruiter. I got to know him when I covered UCF and Gus because he worked for Malzahn. Good guy. And I think Florida State fans are going to like what I have to hear. That is going to be next right here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than just what's on the screen. Florida State just hired Tim Harris Jr. as the coordinator. He moves up from the receiver position. This is a very big hire. He was co-OC and all that. That's great. But there's nothing like being the play caller. Are you going to give it to the person who doesn't do the things necessary to prepare a team, to get himself ready to move up? I can tell you from knowing Tim, just on the recruiting trail, being around UCF, that's not a normal guy. He really grinds. He puts in the effort. He gets into the details, and so does Mazda. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. Here's my take on Tim Harris Jr. And while I'm doing this, I'll go ahead and share my screen as well. There's nothing wrong with his background, that's for sure. Tim Harris Jr. is a down-to-earth guy. He's from the city of Miami. He actually went to the U. He was a track athlete there. He's coached high school. He's coached at FIU, UCF, Miami, UCF again, and now 2025 and this upcoming season for the Florida State Seminoles. He knows the state of Florida well, and in fact, it's the only state he's ever coached in. To that end, I think that his balance and understanding of young people in today's world will be a valuable asset to the Florida State football program in the following ways. Number one, just recruiting. Tim can recruit. He can absolutely recruit. He's somebody that's relatable. I don't care if you're a rich kid. I don't care if you're a poor kid. I don't care if you go to public school, from a big city, from the hood, from the sticks. Doesn't matter. Tim's relatable. And once a young man is on campus, his family, his mother, people around him, his high school coaches, 7-on-7 coaches, trainers, they will respect him. That will be a very important factor because, as we all know, NIL and the transfer portal, if you disrespect somebody, at least from their perspective, it's bye-bye. Tim Harris Jr. will represent Florida State in a very good way because of that. Further, and finally, this is a guy that I know wants it. He wanted to move up. He took a job at UCF to get more opportunities, and he left Miami, his alma mater. He wouldn't have done that just for fun. He wanted to really move up. Now he's made it to that level. He's going to seize it. How they go about the offense, again, I'm going to dive back into that. But here are, just for the record, it's on the screen for YouTubers. And for those of you listening, this is Tim Harris in terms of his coaching tree, right? His own, if you will. 2009 to 2013, he was offense coordinator, receivers coach, quarterbacks coach. He did a little bit of everything for Booker T. Washington down in Miami, part of state championships. In 2014, he took over for his dad. He was the head coach. I believe that's the year they won it again. 2015 through 19, he was at Florida International as the running backs coach. 2020, he was at Florida International as the coordinator and running backs coach. 2021 and 2, co-offensive coordinator and running backs coach. In 2023, he went to Miami to be the running backs coach. And then in 2024, there was no more co-title at UCF. He came back to the Knights, offensive coordinator and receivers coach. And then in 2025, he came to coach for Florida State, passing game coordinator, wide receivers coach, offensive coordinator and receivers coach now. So that is quite the long run, again, all in the state of Florida. And he's the right personality to be at Florida State. So they have the right guy in terms of all those things. It's still up to him at the end of the day to make it work the best that it can. And now I want to jump back into the chat. We'll have some fun with that. Let's see. What's up, Mike? Happy Monday. Positive vibes, Brian. Nole Nation, go Noles. Happy to see you there, Mike. Hope all is well. Richard, at least it will be something different. I am still at 4-8 for 2026. Richard, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm very concerned about the Florida State defense. And if you want to him and haw about the D, go right ahead. I have no problem with that. To that end, it also helps if you've got an offense that can run and pass. This is one of my favorite part. I don't know who coined this term, but it's so true. 4-minute offense. If you can run the ball, and Florida State should be able to, again, this is a good running back group. With those receivers, they should be able to mix it up. I think Tim's experience as a wide receiver coach and as a running back coach, that combination will make Florida State better in protecting their defense, which I'm sure Richard, among others, is not very opportunistically happy about. Like, there's looking at the roster, and Richard's one of the guys. He's constantly here on Locked On Seminoles, and thank you to Richard for that. Florida State didn't get it done, in my opinion, on the portal end of things with the defense. They left some rocks unturned, if you will. Maybe that was money. Maybe that was other reasons. I don't know, but I'm a little concerned. So the offense is going to have to be a 60-40 deal. Florida State's going to be a 60-40 team this next year if they're going to a bowl. Because I really think that like the linebacker, D-line concerns that I have are more depth. I'm not concerned about starters so much, but depth. You get into the back half of that schedule and the offense isn't playing at a high level, Florida State's going to be in trouble. They're going to be in trouble. So I agree there's still a possibility of things going sideways, but it'll be interesting, at least with the offense. Rodnick 7074. I think this abrupt retirement is a personal family matter. Coach dealt with personal matters a lot during the latter half of the 25 season. Could be. And for those who don't know, Gus, really good guy, very family oriented, good man, wife's great guy, all that, daughter, grandkids, all that, good people. Let's see, Richard. FSU does have receivers to drop the ball at those critical moments. They like to drop the pass. Richard is as down on Florida State as anybody. Viva LT, I think at the very least, if Mike gets canned, this season will be a good take for an OC job and maybe lead to some fun football games this season. Go Noles. 340 Island Boy. Good luck to old Gus, but now we need to get an OC who's not just a one-trick pony so we can get better quarterbacks in here. That's a great point. I think Kevin Sperry is going to be a really good quarterback. I like what I've seen of him so far. But at the same time, if you're going to develop a program consistently, barring just doing what Miami's doing and just completely by a million miles, overspending on quarterback year after year, you got to develop some guys, whether it's a JC kid or a high school kid or like Florida State has now, a combination thereof. They've got good players at Florida State that they've recruited, but they also brought in Ashton Daniels. Maybe this is the last year. I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but they should have somebody on the roster after Ashton leaves this year, whether he's the starter or not. That could be the starter in 2027. So that's something to think about. But yeah, Florida State should be recruiting top 15 quarterbacks every single year. Why would they not be? Bowden's flip phone. I'm excited about this change. Harris has the rooms behind him, has great experience running successful offenses. I, for once, welcome some new schemes from last year. no doom and gloom for me. Again, you're going to have to prove it to me that the defense is going to show something. And Florida State still may not win 6 games next year. It's possible. But I don't think it's going to be an offensive problem. And I think they'll be more balanced. Michael Gaines, 821. Who will be our new receiver coach? Great question. I don't know how they're going to do that. And let me be very clear. Tim could still be the receiver coach, technically, and they hire a second coach in some other capacity, or they move guys around. There's a million ways they could do this, just to be clear. And maybe they just do hire a receiver coach. That I do not know. I'm sure Florida State will have something on that pretty soon. This I do not believe at all. Sheffield Thomas. Norvell has come back to call plays. Yeah, right. What we got here? Bowden's flip phone. Talk whatever you want about Norvell, but he has very good success as a play caller in his time. Other than terrible 24, Norvell has had great success. This past season, they were pretty good at it, and Gus was calling it, but his offense was similar. So there is some truth to that. Richard, FSU has best receivers for getting no separation and dropping passes. No focus and effort on game day remains the same. Look, we're going to have to disagree. You don't have over 1,000 yards receiving. Deuce Robinson was pretty good. Makai Danzy was pretty good too. Bowden's flip phone. In Herb, we trust. Offensive line is going to be very, very important for Florida State. There's no question. If you look at what's going on in college football today, this isn't a Florida State thing. This is across the board. Even teams that recruit elite, when they lose, it's almost always the same reason. It's offensive linemen didn't play well. Here's an example. Miami was really good up front. I think we all know that. They gave Florida State a lot of problems too, but they stymied Indiana. They stymied Notre Dame. They stymied Ohio State. And those are all teams that have quality linemen having a chance to go to the draft. But there are times when really good teams that have out-recruited the team they're playing on a given day, not a Miami level D-line, and they struggle. O-line coaching in college is iffy, and I'm being kind. This isn't just Brian Smith's opinion. I can assure you, talking to other scouts, talking to people at the college level, it's a concern. Linemen don't develop as much. And again, I've said this many times on this show and my other show, Locked On the Portal. Linemen don't transfer as much about offensive linemen, but there's still more of it now because of the portal. Continuity is important. Florida State's got 5 new guys. Herb Hand has a lot of work to do. Maybe not all those guys start. I don't know. But a guy like Braden Joyner, who started every game this past year for Purdue at center, he's going to start somewhere. Is it guard? Is it center? How do they do that? That's what he's getting paid a lot of money to figure out. But that is a very interesting part of this. Next, Rod Nix 7074. Bowden's flip phone. I guess you and I will be rolling solo here. I think Harris is a rising star. I think Harris is going to have a really good career. Jarvis Coleman. It's still time to hire a good coordinator, but I know they won't. Bowden's flip phone. Same. And he has those deep Miami roots from his time as a coach there. I love the dude. Byron Leftwich is still available to be an offensive coordinator. I doubt that Byron wants to deal with college. Rod Nix, again, we see a bigger picture here potentially emerging. More song and dance for FSU's offseason to cover up for what is coming. 2-10 in 2026. I will be shocked if they're 2-10. Anything's possible, I guess, but I would be very surprised if it's on that level. Let's see. Coach Harris will do an awesome job. Mike Merrick. Jerry Foster says, do you think if any success having Harris as OC will help in recruiting South Florida? Absolutely. Tim's very well known down there. He's recruited it for a long time. He will not have a difficult time recruiting South Florida. Tim will not. Not in the least. He will also not have a hard time recruiting anywhere he goes. Because again, the most important thing I said when I was talking about him a few minutes back, he's relatable. He's relatable. when you have coaches that are like him, they're just easygoing guys, mom can get to know him. Head coach at a high school can. Like he can go to Atlanta, Nashville, Charlotte, DC, wherever. He's going to be able to do that. And of course, Miami is his home area. Fort Lauderdale, over to the muck, like, Pahokee, up in Palm Beach County, Fort Lauderdale, if he goes to STA, see Roger Harriet and those guys over there, whatever. He'll be just fine. Rod Nix. With a legit front office, Mike can now go back to what he is good at, play calling. I'm curious to see what that is. Is Tim really the play caller? Are they going to coordinate that? I don't know. I haven't heard, I haven't looked into it. That's something they'll probably talk about during the press conference, whenever that takes place. I really do. Jerry Foster, his family is football royalty in South Florida. Talking about Tim and his family, that is true. About time you're more positive. Please, FSU fans, let's get right behind this program. Hey, I just tell it like it is. I think it's going to be an improvement. Jerry Foster, thanks, Rod. That's what I'm hoping. That is a talent hotbed. Yeah, Florida State, they actually done a decent job of recruiting Miami lately. They need to get more alignment and stuff from down there, but there's not a ton of them. Mike Miller, go Noles. Rod Nix, I think Florida State is transitioning to more 4-2-5 looks this season. When you look at the recruiting this far is focused on edge. That could be. The one thing about Tony White's defense is it is multiple. They're not married to the 3-3-5 or the 3-4 or the 4-2-5, 4-3. They're married to finding ways for solutions for each opponent. It's hard to do, and it's a little bit more complex, a little bit more for the team to really, quote unquote, absorb, but it is a possibility. To that end, and this is very important as well, I think they have enough bodies now in the D-line room. At least they can try different things in spring and probably be able to practice against something that's a little bit more traditional. That'll help the defense a little bit as well. Parabellum 6889. The problem is all the new teams know what Malzahn's playbook is. Yeah, well, it's not going to be the same playbook now. Dalton, how good is Tim Harris Jr.? For those of you joining late, I'll give you a synopsis. You can go back and look at the first 20 minutes of this show. And for those of you listening later, this might be part 2 by this point, because I'll probably break the show up into 2 segments. But great guy. He is from South Florida, and I'll put it back up on the screen just so people can see some of what's going on here. 2009 to 13, he was an assistant for his father at Booker T. Washington in Miami. He took over the head job in 2014. And from there, he's been a college coach. He's been around state title teams of Booker T. Washington for several of them. But 2015 to 19, he was at FIU. He was the running backs coach. He moved up to the coordinator and running backs coach the next year. 2021 and 2, he was at UCF under Gus, coordinator, running back. 2003, he went back to his alma mater. He's a University of Miami grad. He was a track athlete for the Canes. He was running backs coach. 2024, UCF, offensive coordinator and receivers. In 2025, he was obviously at Florida State coaching wide receivers. He was the pass game coordinator, and now he's the offense coordinator and receivers coach for the Noles. This is going to be a lot of fun to see how this develops this spring. This gives me a whole different set of discussion points. So it's going to be fun. Senona's reporting Mike will call plays. Just tuned in, so I apologize if this has already been discussed. But was this always the expectation? I don't know. Here's my question. And Senona's he's not going to publish that. He's over at Noles 24/7. He does a great job. That may or may not be the case technically, but let me add 2 points to that. There are always adjustments for individual games. How much input will Tim Harris get to those adjustments? How's that going to work? I don't know. Mike has been a play caller longer than Tim has, because Tim hasn't been a play caller. I get it. But does he design the offense, and how much of it, again, is going to impact? I think it's going to be pretty big. Mike is a receiver by trade. Before he went into coaching, when he played, Tim has coached receivers. They have a couple of special talents on the perimeter, plus Javen Boggs coming in the mix, plus Landon Thomas. I think we're going to see some different things, and it's going to be kind of fun. Jerry Foster, can't wait to talk about the wins on the field instead of Norvell off the field. We can be elite again. NIL can assure that for everyone. Totally agree, Jerry Foster. John Simcox. What a damn freak show this school has become. Jerry Foster. Maybe Mike and Tim will have better chemistry than Malzahn. Could be the merge of explosive ideas. That's really important in any form of business. And being an offensive coordinator, you're part of a business. 100%. If you do not get along, and there were rumors that Mike and Gus didn't always see eye to eye, and I knew that was going to be an issue. You put that set of eyes in the room, a guy that's coached over 30 years, and he's taking over play call. There's going to be times you want to overrule him. He's not going to like it. That was inevitable. So we'll see how that goes. Wow, another moron. Let's see here. Rod Nix, Jerry Foster, stay the course. I think the renaissance is underway. Jerry says, just want it to happen while we have this talent. Like, you get one more year, just one, with Deuce Robinson. It might be the final opportunity with Mekhi Danzey, because he's third year removed from high school. They got a chance to hit the ground running. So I'm going to ask a couple questions for the chat. And for anybody listening later on, fire away on the YouTube page, etc. Number one, whatever the balance was last year in terms of just raw drop back passes, spread outs, just intended passing plays compared to this year, what percentage do you think that will change? I'm going to give my answer now. I think we're going to see a 5 to 8% increase in just our intent is to throw, not RPO, to be clear, what they call a whip pass, a glance. Like, there's different things for screens, for swag. They have different names for them in RPO. Glance is like it's more or less a slant. But I'm talking about designated, we're throwing this sucker right here. I'm going to say 5 to 8% increase because, again, look at the guys outside. They're going to adapt to the talent. If they don't, I think that would be a shame. Why would you not? I think that would be a very smart thing to do. Rod Nix, recruiting is not expanding, beginning to be very active again in South and Central Georgia. Yeah, I think that's important for those that are at least somewhat familiar with Florida State's recruiting historically. And I've talked about this 1,000 times, it seems like, and I'm hyperbole here, but Bowden's teams did a tremendous job, and so did Jimbo at recruiting the state of Georgia and a little bit Alabama for both of them too. Jameis Winston comes to mind. He was from Hueytown High School just outside of Birmingham. That's the difference. You're going to get Florida kids. You're Florida State. Do you get some of the elite, not just kind of good, do you get some of the elite players from the state of Georgia and Alabama? Sure, you're going to cherry pick DC, Dallas, LA, Houston, Chicago, wherever it may be. You're going to try to get some of those guys. You get one or two a year from around the country. Great. Fantastic. Your bread and butter is Florida, but it's closely followed by South Georgia, especially Thomas County Central. They got Jabari Watkins, another really good player, receiver. Florida State just signed a player from that school another after another. And they, by the way, they've got a kid that runs over 23 miles an hour, hasn't even started yet at running back that's coming up the ranks. But I digress. Those kinds of schools, that's the difference. Colquitt County, Valdosta, Lowndes County, Brooks County, like all these schools, Lee County. You've got to be able to get some guys, Tift County, out of Georgia. And then, of course, the greater Atlanta area, McEachern, Douglas County, North Cobb, the entirety of that area is insane. Westlake, ironically, because Gus, we talked about him a little bit today. He ended up with Cam Newton, who played at Westlake. It's on the west side of Atlanta. They have to recruit Georgia at an elite level. And again, a little Alabama isn't going to hurt either. Mike Merrick, Brian, I just want to see more aggression on both sides of the football. No problem with that. I agree with you. Thank you. Lewis or Louis T 4905. So we got this trash quarterback because of Gus. Can't make this up. I have no idea what you're talking about. Rod Nix, I meant to agree with you, Brian. Yeah, no problem, man. I know you meant. Thank you. Chris, the tech, we need a staff that really does love Florida State. I don't think that's going to be an issue. A couple more comments, then I'll wrap up, unless you want to fire away in the comment section here. But number one, Florida State is in the midst of a change now. This can go one of two directions for Mike Norvell. Maybe I should have started with this. Is a good point. I might make this a short. This might be a YouTube short. Mike Norvell is on the hot seat. Everybody knows that. But with Gus Malzahn stepping down and Tim Harris Jr. taking over as the offensive coordinator, there's a chance at the fork of the road to take the offense to another level, be more balanced, be more explosive, be more consistent, especially on the road. If Florida State is better just in the red zone next year with the pass game, why couldn't they be 8-4? It's not like the schedule is full of teams chock full of first, second, and third round draft picks. There are a few teams, Miami's on the schedule and Alabama. But after that, how many teams have the raw talent that Florida State does? Clemson's roster is still good, but is it elite? Virginia Tech's not there, BC, Georgia Tech, like all the other schools in the ACC, it's not there. The offense is going to carry the day or not for Gus Malzahn. He did a pretty good job, but they still need to take another step. It's going to be up to Tim Harris Jr. and Mike Norvell to figure that out. I have said it many times on the show today. It's about the pass game, the drop back pass game. If it's better, Florida State can outlive the expectations, and considerably so. It's up to them. Now, what do you think? Florida State fans, do you believe that this is going to happen? Do you think that the pass game, we'll see an increase? Again, I'm saying 5 to 8% more natural dropbacks. And it's confusing because some of that's RPO, some of it's not. But I think they're going to try to throw the football more with Tim Harris Jr. as the new OC influencing what Mike Norvell does. We'll see. Let's see. Jerry Foster, if we can just cut down on the 3 and outs, giving up big plays and more consistent QB play, we will be fine. Through the wins and losses, this was our Achilles heel. We are not far from Miami. I think they're far from Miami on defense. Offensively, I don't. Defensively, I think there's a crater in difference because of the depth in the front 7 talent that Miami has. It's on another level. Offensively, if you want to talk about that, the skill talent, not a whole lot. I'll take Florida State's top 2 receivers and put it against anybody in the country. But the depth, especially Miami's O-line, that's a whole nother animal. That's where Florida State has to get into it and be really good. Let's see here. Warren Hester. Why coach when you know we're going to suck? I don't know who that is, but that's a little much. Rod Nix. Excellent points with the fork in the road, Brian. I think they will do it. It's up to them, and it's complex because you got to figure out what plays are best for the players that you have presented to your roster, but they've got a few months here to kind of get it done, including spring ball. I expect to see some differences. I don't think they're going to show much, just for the record. I'm going to throw this out here right now. They're going to show hardly anything in spring. This is one of the extreme rare times that a team can catch the entire world off guard and not change head coaches. Even though the coordinator changed, like the head coach usually has to change and all that. And then you kind of have to show some stuff because you're trying to get people in to support your program. Norvell doesn't want media around because nobody wants him around. Let's be honest. They're going to be very secretive this spring, I'm sure. I'm okay with it as long as they play better in the fall. But I'm curious, whatever we do get, is there anything that we can glean from it based on spring? That will be the question that I have. Rod Nix. Remember, Malachi will be studying and developing in the shadows, and Kevin can make a move. Yeah, Malachi Marshall's the GAC kid. He's talented. That kid's got to eat something. Somebody throw him some peanut butter and jelly. He's listed at like 170. He's got to get bigger. Natural thrower. He's mobile. He's what I would call a run-to-throw guy. That's kind of my own category. Like, could he be a 500-yard rusher in Malzahn's style offense? Sure. But he's not very big, and I don't think at the P4 level that's going to be an endurance play. You're going to beat up. you're going to get beat up really bad. But Malachi can swing it. So, and then Sperry's a big dude. I think he's fit. Jerry Foster. Good point, Brian. Defense does need improvement. Like, not just improvement, but Florida State needs massive improvement on defense, in my opinion. Now, this isn't a defensive pod, but I do want to reiterate, they know in that offense, in the offensive rooms, running back room, tight end room, and all that, they're going to have to carry the water more often than not next season. So I expect the play calling and the preparation to get to that play calling to be put in motion that, hey, we need to score 30 today, if not more. I expect it to be a little more risky in some ways with traditional. I'm not talking about trick plays and all that. And if you want to run a flea flicker, Statue of Liberty, some crap like that, fire away. But I expect Florida State to absolutely, unequivocally throw the football next year more than they have here recently. Josh Johnson, it put up or shut up for Norvell. It is year 7. It is time to win or move on from here. Go Noles. 100%. Ariel 3550. This is Mike's last stand. Can he recapture the offensive smarts that he previously had? I don't know. This is no trouble. Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but is he going to be able to figure that out? I don't know. Jerry Foster. Maybe we will have multiple packages for a multiple quarterback attack. Spread the wealth. That's something Gus would have done. That's what I podcasted about this morning. Check out this morning's podcast on February 2nd. This is before Malzahn was announced. I was talking about, hey, it's a question. Will they use Malachi and Sperry different ways in conjunction? Maybe they run the ball or one of them is the run quarterback. So Ashton Daniels doesn't get beat up. I have no idea, but I'm sure they would have had something under Gus like that. Who knows? Rod Nix, a year of Florida State as the old school Don Coryell Chargers. For those who don't know, Don Coryell is actually, well, history lesson, the choreographer of the West Coast offense. It is not anybody with the 49ers. Coryell was with the Chargers, and a guy by the name of Bill Walsh came up under him, who obviously ended up with the Niners. But that's where he got a lot of his information, was Don. So Don Coryell is one of the greatest coaches of all time. A few final thoughts here to wrap up the show. And I'll keep this pretty succinct. Florida State still has to prove to me, especially Mike Norvell, that they are a viable 2026 bowl team. I'm excited about the passing game because it's fun. I'm excited for Deuce Robinson. I had a chance to be around him before. Great guy. I'm excited for Tim Harris. Know him. Good coach, good recruiter, good person. Really happy for him. Good for Gus. I got to know him a little bit when he was at UCF. Really good human being. Hope he does great things in his, plays golf, does whatever the heck it is he wants to do in his retirement, by all means. But at the end of the day, this is a Florida State football podcast. And here's the bottom line. If they can throw the football better, more designed passes, maybe just a few alterations, adjustments, schematical upgrades, or timing of them. They don't even have to really change the playbook that much. To be honest, they have those plays in there. It's just how you use them, when you utilize them, and above all else, of course, get the best players the ball. This is something that Saban talked about. Malzahn's done this for a long time. He's very aware of it as well. Get the best player of the football on 3rd and 4th down. It's 3rd and 1, give it to Chroma. If it's 3rd and 6, I would lean towards Deuce Robinson. If Landon Thomas is having a good game and he's feeling it, it's 3rd and 4. How about we find the tight end on a screen or maybe out in the flat and let him run over somebody? He's 240 pounds. Okay. They have the plays. Now orchestrate them, put them together, and make it more of an opportunity for Florida State football to be headed in the right direction, regardless of how the 2026 final record goes. I don't know how that's going to be, but that's my take. So, here's an interesting comment. Tremaine Williams. I want to see 2022 play calling Mike bring back evil Mike. Remember now that offense, that's when at the back half of the season, they started throwing it a little more, but Jordan Travis had figured it out in the passing game. Like that was a big part of that. Rod Nix, just a little nugget. Last time we were 5-7, we followed 10-3 and unheralded leader emerged at quarterback. That's technically true. That is technically true. Pat, Gus doesn't want to coach a losing team anymore and is taking care of the last lifeboats off the Titanic. As long as we continue with Norvell and Alford, people won't want to be associated with Florida State. Jerry Foster, bottom line, if the players buy in, we win. I don't disagree with that. 100%, Pat. That is from Warren Hester. And that is where I will wrap it up. Thank you, folks, very much for checking out Locked On Seminoles. I'll have more thoughts about this tomorrow. I may even have another pod today. I don't know, but this has been fun. I appreciate everybody stopping in. We will dive in more, if you will, on the whole Malzahn, Tim Harris, Mike Norvell, the players, Deuce Robinson in different ways. I'll have guests on. I might have some people come onto my show, do some crossovers, definitely Dono, etc. Spencer McLaughlin. There's going to be some different things going on with Locked On Seminoles. And I had a show almost went on to record it. And then I saw that Norvell was going to have a new coordinator and all this. So I've got a whole nother show ready to record for recruiting and stuff, but this had to come first, obviously. So thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. If you're on Apple, please leave us a review. If you're checking out the audio, remember Everydayer Club, you can get your audio without ads, $5. Everydayer Club down below. There's a description. Just click on that link. And above all else, go Noles. Everybody have a good one. I will see you again soon.